Greetings to all of you. In this video, I want to talk about the upcoming partial lunar eclipse on August 27th or 28th, depending on where you are on the globe. Remember, as I'm recording this video, that we're still in this time of the eclipse portal, beginning with the solar eclipse on August 12th, continuing now through this partial lunar eclipse. These eclipses are really reverberating energetically in their activation of us and of what's going on globally. I believe solar eclipses are like a wake-up call. They're guiding our attention to look at what we're needing to pay attention to, what's needing to shift as we're moving into higher consciousness. The lunar eclipse is more about how we're working our emotional process and often brings intense emotions or insights, guiding us in our inner process of healing and transformation. I want to show you the chart and talk about the aspects at the time of this lunar eclipse. But then again, as I've done in recent videos, I want to put more of the emphasis on where these energies are in the sky and how we can attune to them at the time of the actual full moon lunar eclipse. Remember also with eclipses that they happen because the sun and moon are in aspect to, in alignment with the lunar nodes. So they're not only activating us to wake up or do inner work or make changes in our lives, they're aligning with the lunar nodes that are very much about what are we meant to focus on karmically in this time. What is the deeper theme energetically and spiritually that's being activated, that's calling us to attune to that and to work that process? So let's keep this in mind as we look at the chart and then look at where these energies are in the living sky. So here's the chart of the partial lunar eclipse that here on the east coast of the United States will be on the 28th at 12:19 a.m., just after midnight. And remember, at the time of the solar eclipse, we had that powerful grand square with Pluto squaring Haumea, and Pluto opposite at that time Jupiter and Mercury, but they've now moved on. But we still have the T-square with Haumea opposite Chiron and Chiron squaring Pluto. But interestingly enough, now at the time of the lunar eclipse, we have another powerful grand square. And this time it involves the sun and moon in their opposition with each other at this time of the full moon, and the two of them are squaring Uranus. I think this is the most powerful aspect at the time of this lunar eclipse. But what's very significant, and you'll see this more clearly when we look at where these energies are in the sky, you can see that the sun and moon are in alignment with the royal stars Regulus and Fomalhaut, and they're squaring Uranus, which is close to Aldebaran, which is opposite Antares. I'll talk more about the profound meaning of these royal stars and what it means that this eclipse is so integrated with their energies. But before we get into that, let's look at some of the other significant aspects and the meaning in particular of the square of the sun and moon with Uranus. In the tropical zodiac chart, and remember this is about how we experience the seasonal energies here in our experience on the earth plane, and is no longer exactly correlated with where these luminaries and planets are in the sky. So we have the sun at 4 degrees of Virgo, opposite the moon at 4 degrees of Pisces. And with the full moon in Pisces, not only are we in a lunar eclipse, but with the moon in Pisces, we are likely to be experiencing a lot of emotions coming up at the time of this eclipse. So be open to whatever you're feeling. I encourage you, take time to journal, take time to attune to what's coming up for you emotionally at the time of this eclipse, because I think this can be a powerful time to be tuning in at a deeper level to things in your life that are needing to be addressed, issues that may be unresolved that need to heal from the past. So honor what you're feeling and allow yourself to take the time to meditate and reflect on what's at the root of that. Because it's very significant that Chiron is in a sextile with the moon at the time of the eclipse and trining the sun. So Chiron, that's just moved into Taurus, is very much guiding us in healing, healing how we are in relationship with our bodies, healing how we are in connection to our values and how we're working with our resources and finances. But Chiron in Taurus is also very much about how are we working issues around our own sense of self-esteem and sense of self-worth. So those issues in particular may get activated at the time of this full moon lunar eclipse. But again, coming back to this powerful square, T-square, of the sun and moon with Uranus at 5 degrees of Gemini. Uranus is that planet that is the great awakener. It cuts through illusion to show us what's true, what we need to see. It gets to the heart of things. And I think in an ongoing way, Uranus in Gemini is bringing a lot of disclosure. It's bringing a lot to our awareness of what's been hidden and what's been beneath the surface in our systems and structures and in our collective consciousness. It's guiding us to see how out of balance we've been and to see the corruption and greed and destruction of the power over paradigms of the Kali Yuga that we're needing to see in order to clear and heal and move into the paradigms of the Aquarian age. But in that it's very strongly squaring the sun and moon at the time of this eclipse, it's going to be activating a lot of insight, clarity in our own inner process. So again, I encourage you to journal at the time of this full moon eclipse to attune to what insights may be coming to you. And as emotions arise, allow Uranus to guide you to get clarity about where are these feelings coming from, what experiences from the past may be coming to the surface to heal, to be transformed. Uranus is also continuing to be close to Sedna, so it's guiding us collectively to remember that we're in this profound time of shift in the precessional cycle and to see clearly what we need to leave behind, what patterns and ways of being we need to set ourselves free from Uranus in order to move into new ways of being. Because as I said earlier, the lunar nodes are really guiding us to see the karmic theme that we're working at this time. And that's very powerfully this theme of South Node in Leo, North Node in Aquarius. How are we coming from our hearts to move more into these Aquarian paradigms that are about truth, justice, harmony, balance, being in right relationship with each other and all that is. And being at the 29th degree, it's a shamanic degree. We're being called into this clarity and awareness in order to be in a process of metamorphosis, of transformation into new ways of being. It's also significant that the sun and moon are in aspect to Mars, which is conjunct Ceres and is guiding us to be acting from compassion and in ways that are nurturing and in ways that are in right relationship with the earth. It's also significant that Mars is in alignment, and you'll see this when we look at the visual astrology. It's in alignment with the star Sirius, again, guiding us back into that awareness of this critical time in the precessional cycle when we're called into this transformation into the Aquarian paradigms. It's also very significant that the star Sirius, which is associated with Isis, and I was talking in great depth in the solar eclipse video about how powerful Isis and Osiris were at the time of the solar eclipse. And they continue to be very actively engaged at the time of this lunar eclipse, with Isis, the asteroid Isis, at 22 degrees of Leo, and the asteroid Osiris at 27 degrees of Leo. So they're both here close to the south lunar node. And again, activating our remembrance of that ancient wisdom coming from thousands of years ago in ancient Egypt, where Isis and Osiris were guiding the people in how to live in right harmony and right balance and in higher consciousness and in alignment with cosmic order. We also have the sun conjunct Mercury and Mercury opposite the moon. So I believe that this lunar eclipse is continuing, as the solar eclipse was, to guide us in changing how we're thinking. Uranus is also squaring Mercury, guiding us to let go of the thought patterns and ways of thinking that are guiding us to stay caught in these out of balance paradigms of the Kali Yuga. Remember that our thoughts influence our feelings, that then influence our actions and our experience of reality. And as we can change our perceptions and our ways of thinking, we can open to these new paradigms and new ways of being of the Aquarian age. Coming back to this full moon, the meaning of the sun at 4 degrees of Virgo is, the image is a person dreams of fairies. And the meaning of that is that this is a time where there's an opening to new levels of consciousness that is allowing us to attune to more subtle levels of reality. That gets underscored by moon in Pisces, and the meaning of that Sabian symbol, the image is a church bazaar. And the meaning of that is seeing the cosmic and spiritual energies in all of our interactions and activities, being willing to interact with others with integrity and lightness of being. So I think part of what's powerful with the aspects of this lunar eclipse is Uranus is shattering the illusions. We're being guided to let go of the thought patterns of the past, to open to this more intuitive, spiritual attunement, moon in Pisces, to our spiritual consciousness, to being guided by new ways of seeing and being and knowing, and to open more to not only that intuitive aspect of who we are, but the mystical side of who we are and our capacity to remember that we are spiritual beings having this human experience. And as we come back to center, come back into alignment within ourselves, we can be guided by spirit and by our own intuition and inner knowing. So I think this time of the lunar eclipse is likely to be bringing up a lot of emotions to be cleared and healed. It's going to be helping us let go of thought patterns and ways of perceiving things that no longer fit with these new paradigms that we're moving into. And we're going to be guided to move into new patterns and to get insights through Uranus and clarity, and to be guided by synchronicities. But remember that this is going to be a time of awakening, of disclosure, of seeing things in our own lives and seeing things collectively that may have been hidden in the shadows. It's being brought to the light of consciousness so that we can see the patterns that we need to clear and heal, and the ways in which we need to be in this process of transformation, to come from our hearts and be in alignment more and more with the energies and paradigms of the Aquarian age. These are the key aspects in the chart. There are others, but these are the key points that I want to focus on as we're now going to look at where these energies are in the sky at the time of the lunar eclipse. I want to focus initially on where the sun and the moon are and how they're a part of this grand square with the royal stars. You can see here in the visual astrology that the sun and Mercury are very close to Regulus, the heart of Leo the lion, and the south node is right on Regulus. So we're being guided to attune to that energy of Regulus, which is about how do we live from our hearts with courage? How do we align our hearts with the energies of the cosmos to remember our hearts are our center chakra that allows us that access to higher consciousness and to that awareness of the oneness of all that is. It's also significant that Leo and the star Regulus are significant in that they remind us of the Sphinx on the Giza plateau that was built 12,000 years ago to face the stars of Leo as we were moving into the age of Leo, and the stars of Leo were rising before sunrise at the time of spring equinox. And I think it's incredibly significant that there's now increasing evidence that there's a second Sphinx on the Giza plateau that's opposite the current Sphinx and facing in the opposite direction, so that the two Sphinxes at the time of the age of Leo would be facing the stars of Leo and the stars of Aquarius, reminding us that this is such a critical transition time as we were in the age of Leo, moving into the Treta Yuga, what the Greeks called the Silver Age, starting to move into that time of descending consciousness. So Leo is guiding us to remember that critical time in the precessional cycle. And this was when, in the age of Leo, we experienced that major time of transition and cataclysm on the earth with the Younger Dryas period, because we got so out of balance, got caught in ego, got caught in a distortion of the deeper meaning of the energies of Leo. And this South Node in Leo is reminding us to reflect on those ways in which we can work with the energy of fire, of consciousness, of Leo, of leadership, to get caught in ego and arrogance and grandiosity and get out of balance and move into destructive patterns. This is part of what happened as we moved into that descending cycle of consciousness. And I believe this lunar eclipse is a wake-up call, guiding us to do that emotional work, to look at how are we tuning to that fire within us, the sacred fires of spirit that are guiding us to be in alignment with our soul selves, to come from our hearts with courage, and to align with the energies of the cosmos, to not get caught in ego, in arrogance, in grandiosity, in imbalance. So in a powerful way, the Sun and Mercury and the South Node conjunct Regulus are supporting us in seeing those ways in which we may be out of balance in relationship with our ego and how we're working with those creative fires within us. Remember, we are each a fractal expression of cosmic consciousness with that fire within us, wanting to manifest in our bringing our unique gifts into the world. But if we get caught in ego, then we use this energy of Regulus and Leo as an effort to draw attention and power to ourselves rather than being a vessel for the energies of spirit and the fires of creativity to come from our hearts to be of service. The full moon, at the time of this full moon lunar eclipse, you can see is actually here in the stars of Aquarius, in the constellation of the Water Bearer, right where the jug is holding the energies of the living waters of the cosmos to let them flow down to the earth. So the full moon in the stars of Aquarius, here honoring the Water Bearer and these waters coming to us from the cosmos, are about helping us remember who we truly are and how to come back into alignment with the wisdom and energies of the cosmos. And the moon is in alignment with Fomalhaut. And remember, the North Node is here also. So what are we karmically meant to be working on as the growing edge at this time? It's how do we come back into connection with the wisdom of the cosmos? How do we remember who we truly are and align with those energies of Aquarius and Fomalhaut, which is the royal star that is about integrating that spiritual, mystical understanding to align with the wisdom of the cosmos, to live from that wisdom and guidance. And I also think it's significant, as I was discussing in that interview with Trevor Grossi, that the age of Aquarius is the time where what has been hidden in the descending cycle of the Yuga cycle, what's been forgotten, what's been buried, what we've gotten disconnected from, starts coming back into our consciousness. So not only with this powerful square with Uranus, are we being guided to see what's out of balance, what we need to set ourselves free from, what's been so destructive in the paradigms of the past. But more and more, what's also coming into our awareness is the ancient wisdom that was forgotten or lost. And again, I encourage you to watch that interview that I did with Trevor Grossi, where he's explaining the incredible discoveries that are happening in terms of our understanding of what's beneath the surface of the Giza plateau, all of these ways in which the ancient wisdom is encoded in the pyramids, in the structures of the Giza plateau, and that there is likely a hall of records with what we've forgotten, the ancient wisdom from the past that's stored beneath the Giza Plateau that we soon may rediscover. And in reopening that, as Trevor said, it not only reminds us of our history as humanity, but it will open us up to the awareness of ways of working with energy, of healing, ways of working with sacred geometry, light and sound that we've forgotten that can change the whole trajectory of our world and of humanity. So the full moon is reminding us this is the time of awakening. This is the time of opening and remembering what's been forgotten. And the importance of opening to that spiritual, intuitive, mystical side of ourselves, to come from our heart to Regulus, to then open to this higher consciousness, to be in this time of awakening. So the sun and moon, the lunar nodes, are conjunct Regulus and Fomalhaut, those two royal stars of the north and south. And we have this grand square that's including the royal stars of the east and west. We have Uranus now. It's moved from its close connection to the Pleiades to now it's between the Pleiades and right above Aldebaran, the eye of the bull of Taurus. And the meaning of this royal star is all about living from integrity. Uranus, again, is giving us that clarity individually and collectively. Where are we out of integrity? Where are we out of right relationship? Where are we out of balance? But I believe it's also guiding us to see more clearly what will support us in moving into these new Aquarian paradigms and how we can then come into alignment with that wisdom from the past to be living in right harmony and right balance. Remember that these royal stars are in the constellations of Leo, opposite Aquarius, Taurus, opposite Scorpio. And remember, in the precessional cycle, these constellations and fixed signs are the critical turning points aligned with critical changes in the precessional cycle. So again, the energies of this eclipse are saying, remember your journey as humanity through this precessional cycle of being in a time of advanced understanding and knowledge, the golden age, to then move into the age of Leo and the beginning of the descending cycle and the time of increasing forgetting, to now be at a time of awakening and remembrance, to reclaim the wisdom that was lost and to move into the new paradigms of the Aquarian age. And Uranus is activating that and guiding us in that. And to complete that grand square, we have the fourth royal star, Antares, the heart of the scorpion of the constellation Scorpius. When you have, as we saw in the chart, a T-square, the sun opposite the moon, both squaring Uranus, the way that you can work that tension of those planets that are squaring each other is to complete the grand square and to really work the energy of that fourth point, which in this case is Antares, the royal star of the West. And the meaning of Antares is about understanding the journey of transformation, being willing to dive deep, do the inner work to emerge transformed. It's about the energy of alchemy, how in that process of burning away what we need to release and shed from the past, we can emerge in the true gold of who we are. And I deeply believe we have this capacity now to make an evolutionary leap into a new golden age if we do the inner work and the transformational work that we're called into in this time. And remember that Antares, that royal star, is beneath the stars of Ophiuchus, the great healer. So the cosmos is bringing us this healing energy through Ophiuchus, through the energies of Chiron, to support us in doing this inner work, diving deep, to be clearing the wounds and out of balance patterns from the past in order to emerge transformed, empowered in new ways of being. So this grand square, these four royal stars are powerfully getting activated at the time of this lunar eclipse. So I encourage you at the time of this eclipse, tune into these royal stars, and in particular, that opposition of Regulus and Fomalhaut with the sun and moon. But let's look at where some of the other planets are in the sky. Mars, which is an aspect of both the sun and moon, is actually in the sky in the stars of Gemini, guiding us to face that inner duality, the light and dark within us, to hold that conscious awareness so that we're acting from a place of clarity and consciousness. And again, in its alignment with Sirius, the brightest star in our sky, and the star that I believe is our binary star, guiding us through this precessional cycle, is supporting us in having our actions align with the meaning of being at this threshold, of moving into the Aquarian age, of reclaiming the lost wisdom from the past so that we can move into whole new ways of being individually and collectively that are not only in balance, in alignment, in right relationship with all that is, but to be able to access those ancient ways of working with in alignment with cosmic order and the energies of the earth and sky, to be working with energy systems, ways of healing that are regenerative and that are supportive of us in this transformation, instead of the ways in which we've been on a path of destruction and exploitation of our resources and of the planet. Jupiter is here in the stars of Cancer, as I talked about it at the time of the solar eclipse, guiding us to connect with those energies of Cancer that align us with the sacred feminine wisdom of the Great Mother, of the moon and the lunar cycle, and helping us as we're in this transformation of our thoughts and beliefs to bring in the wisdom of the sacred feminine to help us come back into balance. Venus is now very close to Spica, which is the star in the harvest goddess that is the sheaf of wheat and is symbolic of the ways in which the great goddess and our earth mother are nurturing us and supporting us with her gifts. So as we come back in right alignment with the earth, we can benefit from her nurturance, her gifts to us, and allow ourselves to be Venus in right relationship with her, and then have our actions and our ways of being in relationship be of service to others, be nurturing to others, be a way in which we're giving of ourselves and being of service with our creativity, with our gifts, rather than being on a path of ego, exploitation, greed, destruction. We see now that Saturn and Neptune continue to be here in the stars of Pisces. Again, particularly with Neptune in Pisces, guiding us to open to our intuition, our creativity, our spiritual ways of knowing. Pluto is actually between the stars of Sagittarius and Capricornus in the sky, it's in this liminal space. So Pluto is the planet of transformation that's guiding us through this time of transformation to know that we're moving into a new age, but honoring being in this time of mystery, of not knowing, and allowing ourselves to be attuning intuitively to what is the guidance in this moment for us as we're in this process, this fluid process of unfolding to move into new ways of being. So, again, what I want to really highlight about this lunar eclipse is this powerful grand square with the sun and moon opposite in the sky at the time of this full moon lunar eclipse, squaring Uranus, which is close to the royal star Aldebaran, opposite Antares, that star that's getting activated by this grand square with the royal stars that's calling us into this deep transformational process. Not only are these royal stars so important in ancient mythology and ancient wisdom in how they're guiding us in our own individual process and our own individual journey of consciousness, but they are, in fact, the markers of these critical times of change and transition in the 24,000-year precessional cycle, with Aquarius in alignment with Fomalhaut being the time of awakening, of remembrance, of coming out of the time of forgetting, of our descending consciousness, and in particular coming out of this Kali Yuga, the time of our lowest level of consciousness in the last 6,000 years, into a time of awakening and remembering who we truly are, of having the ancient wisdom coming back into our consciousness, having the increasing disclosure of what's been hidden, that the Hall of Records, the ancient wisdom that's been encoded in stone and buried beneath the surface of the earth until we as humanity could come to a high enough level of consciousness to open to it again. That time is now, if we do, as this lunar eclipse is calling us into, the inner work that we need to do to clear the blocks, to clear the trauma from the past, to clear the out of balance thoughts and beliefs that keep us tied to the old paradigms, to be able to open to the energies that are coming to us from the sun, from the galactic center, from the earth herself, to move us into higher consciousness and into an awakening, because we are at such a critical portal point for an evolutionary leap as humanity. I strongly believe that we have free will and we can resist these energies, or we can open to them, allow them to be transforming us and working through us, allowing ourselves to be in alignment with the wisdom flowing to us from the water bearer, from the cosmic waters, from the wisdom of the sky, to support us to be in these currents of change, to move into radically new ways of being. We have to dare have that courage from our hearts, as the sun is reminding us in its conjunction with Regulus in the north and the south node. If we have courage to come from our hearts and trust this journey of transformation that we're in, then we can surrender and open to these energies of the cosmos that are taking us through this time of mystery, this time of not knowing, this liminal time, which is the time where we have the opportunity to heal and transform, to then move into new forms and new ways of being that we can't fully see yet. But these energies are guiding us to trust, guiding us to know we are held in the love and wisdom of the cosmos, guiding us to attune to these royal stars that can help us, Regulus, come from our hearts with courage, Fomalhaut, open to the wisdom that's available to us, Aldebaran, embody that then and live that and act from integrity, and Antares, be willing to be in this process of transformation and transmutation, knowing that as we burn away the patterns from the past that no longer serve us, we emerge empowered in new ways of being. I encourage you at the time of this full moon and lunar eclipse, open to the feelings that are arising for you, the insights that may come to you. Take time to go out and connect with the sky, attune to these royal stars. Look at the full moon and know that it's right there close to Fomalhaut. Know that the sun is getting activated by the royal star Regulus. Attune to Uranus in its close connection to Aldebaran and honor that energy of Antares. And you may want to, and I'll put the link below, work with that medicine wheel meditation that is incorporating working with the energies of these fixed stars and these constellations in the sky to guide us in coming to center, coming into alignment, working with those energies to be more and more fully in alignment with our hearts and our soul selves, to be in this process of healing and transformation, to move into higher consciousness. So I encourage you to use that meditation and really attune in an energetic, intuitive, shamanic way to the energies of this full moon, to allow it to awaken in you what's needing to come into awareness, allowing you to see what's been hidden that needs to come into the light of consciousness for your healing, but also for your awakening and ability to expand your consciousness, connection with spirit, and move into these new ways of seeing and being. And may we continue to support each other in this process, to connect our hearts with each other in this community around the globe, to support each other in having courage to be in this liminal time, this time of mystery, to support each other in opening to these energies from the earth and sky, to have faith that we are being guided into an evolutionary leap, into the capacity to remember who we truly are, what we're capable of, and how we can, in fact, transmute into Homo luminous ones, beings of light and love. May we hold that faith and trust and energy with and for each other. Blessings and love to all of you. Blessed be.